Hi, I want to share with you one of my favorite free iPhone and iPad apps called Labelbox, which I use all the time to help me with non-linguistic, this is a long word, representation of our new vocabulary. So step one is just to use the built-in camera app on your iPad or your iPhone and take a bunch of pictures as you tell your story. Try to take at least one or two shots of each of the important parts of the story. I was using my iPad to take these pictures. I think they're still trying to work out some of the kinks in the iPad camera though. Although these aren't great pictures, I have figured out a couple of things that tend to help me get better pictures. One thing is you got to watch the reflection of light off these whiteboards. They don't look like this while you're acting out the story, but then in the picture you really have a bad glare on those. Speaking of glare, one of the biggest helps that I've noticed is I close my mini blinds before we start. I know usually with photography you want natural light, but for some reason when you're using your iPad, especially the iPad, sometimes the iPhone, the natural light really messes with the device's ability to adjust to the lighting. I'm also not very good at catching them in focus. Generally, I delegate the job of photographer to one of my students. The problem with that is sometimes you're going to get back terrible pictures, and then sometimes you're going to get back way better pictures than I could have taken. Okay, so the app that I use is called Labelbox. It's completely free, which is awesome, and it works with either your iPhone or your iPad. As it's originally written as an iPhone app instead of an iPad app, if you open it on your iPad, it will open up in iPhone format, which means you'll see this little 2X down here at the bottom right corner. And just tap it once, and it will double size and be easier to use. The app is so easy to use, but I'll go ahead and walk you through it. It'll open up, and of course it tells you right here, tap here to start. Next thing you're going to do is tap on this camera icon right here. Then the app gives you an option. Do you want to pick your image from the camera, which means take a live picture right now, or do you want to use an image from your library? We've already taken our pictures as we were doing the storytell, so of course we're always going to choose library. Okay, now that I'm in the picture and I've chosen which label I want to use, I just swipe my finger left to right and the label appears. Also at the same time, your keyboard here will automatically load for you to type in whatever label you want on there. You can label anything in the picture that you want to. For example, this boy is sleeping across a couple of chairs, but I want them to know that in the story that was the bed. So here I have put la cama, which is the Spanish word for bed. Okay, not that you can tell that I make this mistake a lot, but the most important part to remember is after you've labeled your picture, you have to choose this icon right here. It looks like an arrow pointing down into something kind of like a file or a box. This is how you save. I can't tell you how many times I have labeled a photo and then forgotten to save it. When you save it, it's automatically in your iPhoto library, but this time you'll have it with the label in it too. Don't forget this step. Okay, I promise some of you are going to forget this step at some point, and you'll be super irritated with yourself, and you'll remember, Christina told me I'll probably forget this step. So now we're ready to begin the process again. You go right back to that step of choosing the camera icon, go into your library, and choose the next photo that you want to label. Like I said, you can label anything in the picture. You can label objects, you can label an action, you can label a character. The nice thing about using Labelbox on your pictures from your class is that it really does just kind of help the kids to get this visual image every time they picture that new vocab phrase. Obviously, you can have multiple labels. I have desayuno, the word for breakfast, and the phrase cuida a su niño. She takes care of her son or cares for her son. So the last photo and this photo look very similar, but there is a difference, and it's right here where she's looking away. But if I didn't have this label here saying she looks at the clock, then the kids might not have known, oh, what was the difference between that last picture and this picture? What is it that she's wanting me to say now? I really like this example here because, again, it shows you se pone nerviosa, the action going on in this story, but also I caught my student teacher Liz in the middle of teaching, and it's a great example of how she's just giving one of our actors a suggestion of how to act out that part. You can make the labels as long or as short as you want them to be, so if you need it to encompass both of them because both characters are involved in the action, you can just make it that long. Okay, to those of you TPRS teachers, you probably knew right away that these two kids with their hands up in the air were a building, obviously. But it's always a pretty good idea to label what the building was. And finally, I took this picture about 2 seconds too late because the class at the last second decided that after he arrives at the school, the mom gives a kiss to her son, and so it was a really cute moment where she blew him a little kiss, and they're kind of being silly about it afterwards. So although I didn't catch the kiss being blown, I did catch their funny, awkward reactions afterwards. A couple of final notes of how I use this application. So this is how I use it with a story. I also have given the iPads to the kids and had them take pictures of the objects and label them themselves. I'll tell you, I do use student volunteers to be the photographer, but I am very, very careful about having the student actually label the picture because the chances that they'll miss an accent mark or make a typo or misspell something are pretty high. And once the labels are made and saved in there, you have to redo the whole process in order to fix that typing error. So just a caution for you to use. Overall, I think this is a great app, and I use it all the time in my classroom.